package truck and some capital outlay. And 130,500 to the water sewer collection for a sewer camera and a portable pump and additional items, totally 130,000. An increase of 40,000 in the sewer plant for a digester waste pump, polymer pump, and additional pumps totaling to the 40,000. After all these capital outlays and projected expenses, we're still going to be in the 25% of projected expenditures for the next fiscal year. And at this time, we make the recommendation for the first reading of the ordinance for the proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year.
I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing at 7:08. Any members of the public that wish to make any statements regarding the proposal of the budget at this time?
Mayor, I have a question.
Can you come forward, please?
Mayor, members of the commission, city manager, engineer, Mr. Attorney here. I noticed that the last sentence in this report stated the sanitation and the utility fund will remain well funded. Is that correct? Can we go to the last paragraph, please?
Fund balance for the general fund is projected to be 25% of the projected expenditures. Fiscal year ending September 30th, 2014, utility fund and solid fund continue to remain financially sound. Yes, sir.
Will there be an increase of city services? Has that been discussed or considered? Or is it remaining the same? Are we citizens paying the same as what we've been paying for city services?
As far as I know, there's been no increase that we discussed on any, be it the water rates, be it the sewer, be it collection. The only thing that rates were changing were the tax. But other than that, am I correct? We have not had that discussion at all, or had that consideration. Yeah. Sure, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody from the commission?
Last meeting, it was explained that by you that a salary increase could be done, and it didn't necessarily need to be to the 60,000. Yet Mr. Baca claimed that it was, and I just wanted to get some clarification on that. Would it need to be the entirety of the $14,000?
My understanding, speaking with the attorney, and going through the research and contacting the personnel, salary range that I gave the last meeting of 54,000 and X numbers to the 62,000 is a range that we can, the American Commission can select more or less the range between that. That's something. That's something that the American Commission can allow, can approve that. There's nothing in writing that says illegal that we have to approve within the range. That range is anything between that range is, again, it's the commission discretion recommendation.
But the 60,000 was what I understood was for immigration, matters. Wasn't that the 60,000 that he?
Basically, what it is that when someone applies for a job, being a foreign employee, they apply for a job and they look at all the different categories, and the category that was selected was computer program analyst, and that puts out a range of salaries that choose from. Mind you, we are not obligated to go. That's just a guideline. we're not obligated to approve that, but we are recommended and guided to look at that salary range between what is given there. And it's up to the city to determine exactly at what level that employee is at, and the recommendations made by the city staff.
I'd like to, on that particular item, I think we had a good discussion during the workshop, and for more reasons than just a reason of immigration, because that really isn't how you value the work that's been done by Mr. Baca. But is the fact that somebody of his skill, his experience, his educational level, and more than anything else, the work that he has done for the city in the past 2 years or 3 years, the fact that he has worked for free for about 10 months, and he started off at, I think he mentioned $12 an hour and then $15 an hour, and we finally created a department, which we did for the first time last year, which really didn't, he was not able to work for too long and be able to work down that budget, but the investment in his salary at $60,000, and Chief, you said there's nothing in writing. There is something in writing, and it does say 6,000 plus. I don't have that exact on an application in which the consideration was given for the kind of work, and I remember at that time the conversation being, is it comparable to that kind of position in other areas? And not too many cities are as blessed as we have been to be able to create this department and do the kind of work. And I know that for him at the level that he is, that 60,347 is what seems to be in my mind. It might be a different number. Should definitely be given to Mr. Baca. I like to state that I know that the budget, I want to be able to consider a bonus for the employees as well. I'd like to propose a 250 one-time bonus. And as far as it comes to Mr. Baca, because if we did that 250 bonus, it would take us approximately $49,750. And with Mr. Baca on his amount, I'd like to also propose that there was about $17,000 that was put aside for traveling for the commission. There's many other areas that can be reduced, but in good faith to believe that it's not because it's who's Mr. Baca. It is because what is good for the community, what is good for the city to continue to progress as we have. I'd like to propose that any monies, if we were to take the traveling money and divide it by 5, it would be about $3,400 a piece, or $3,500. I'd like to give my $3,500 up. I will travel with the city at my own cost, at my own everything. I will pay for myself, but I can give those $3,400 to the budget for Mr. Baca's department. And the reason I believe that is because, one, we can't afford to lose somebody of his caliber and his ability, and I like to be able to continue the progress that we have so that he does get paid the $60,000. And as far as the other things on the budget that I spoke about, I'm very appreciative to the city manager, Chief Gonzalez, for taking it already into consideration when it came to our street lights, which we desperately need to continue working on. The extra help at the library, we could actually realize to provide more services to our community by having that open on a Sunday. And I think we can see a lot. This is what this building should be, is that's being used at capacity for the best of our community. I'm real appreciative to that. I think we also included one other item that I had mentioned, it escapes me right now, but I still believe that we need to do the bonus for our employees. I want money put away for street improvements. And I want to go ahead and, on the record, state the items that if we were to able to put money aside for street improvements of at least $100,000. And I'm looking at the $20,000 increase in attorney's fees, that it be back to the budget it was last year. The $30,000 that was put for legal issues, I'd like that, that's a new line item, that be eliminated, that the focus advocacy, the lobbyist be eliminated, and also a storage room for 20,000. We may not need that much at this point to eliminate, since we got some of them worked in, but that would total at least $140,000 available to be able to cover, if less on the streets, but at least the increase. Because the last thing I think we just heard the discussion from the folks that came to talk about the hospital district, we're going to go ahead and hit our people one more time for something worthy, definitely, but that's going to impact every family. The thing is, I don't want to have to come back mid-year next year and have to do a budget adjustment. I would not want to compromise the 25% of our general fund to go below the policy level. And we have to, our people in the city of San Juan live within their means, and the city of San Juan itself, organization, should live within its means. And so not only am I proposing what I would like for us to consider, but ways that we can eliminate so that we do have a balanced budget. And those are my recommendations.
Do we have a balanced budget being presented right now? Okay, so we're already at a balanced budget. Okay, I would, you know, love to do away with the increase in the legal fees, but I believe that it's really difficult for me to agree to that at this point, considering how litigious things have been the last 6 years that I've been here, 5.5 years that I've been here. And I wouldn't mind, except if we eliminate it now, we'll just be right back in the same situation where we're gonna have to come back and make a mid-year appropriation, because inevitably, as has happened in the last 5+ years, we will have, you know, additional legal issues. I understand you want to eliminate it here, but then when we have to bring it back for a mid-year appropriation, because we have to pay these legal fees, then you're going to vote against it. And I just think that that's kind of, you know, really just kind of not fair, so that we don't include it in the budget now, and then we have to pay for it later, and then you're going to vote against it like you have in the past. You know, I just think that just leave it in. If we don't use it, then it'll go back into the fund balance. If we don't use it, then we can very easily transfer it from one line item into another. I'd rather have it there and not have to do a mid-year appropriation to pay for attorney's fees because the city's getting sued. You know, this last 2 weeks, I've learned of 2 new lawsuits that have been filed against the city. And so I find it really hard, since we're going through all these legal challenges, none of which have been successful, I might add. But since we are going through all these legal challenges, I find it hard to reduce those legal fees and then just have to come right back here next spring and do a budget amendment on it. So I would definitely be opposed to that. And I would definitely be opposed to eliminating our representation in Austin. I think I've been very clear about the need for the city to be represented in Austin. And I think that, for my part, I would not like to eliminate that either. As far as opening the library on Sundays, I'm in full support of that. I'd like to see our numbers, Mrs. Seen. I know that, and I was looking through the report, but I'd like to see if maybe we could conduct a survey of clients, because when we say we open on Sunday, what would be the most appropriate time to open on Sunday? I don't certainly believe that we would need to open our regularly scheduled hours. And so as we look at that, we can actually begin to estimate a true cost of not only staff, but also electricity and any other incidentals in the operation of the library. One of the things that occurred to me, and I typically only come into to the library on Saturdays with my children, but what is our traffic like on Fridays, particularly right now during the football season?
In the afternoon, it's slow.
Yeah. And so maybe when we start talking about, opening on Sundays, we also might look at, Friday afternoons, typically during football season is slow. Maybe we can realize a savings by closing the library sooner on Fridays, and maybe that might be an additional way where we can find the funding to open on Sundays, because I can tell you that, I know my kids were here this Saturday, and my son took 10 books, and by Sunday evening, he was ready to bring them back. And so I definitely, and the sooner we get him back here, the more likely it is he's not going to lose one. So I'm definitely in favor of opening on Sundays. But I'd like for us to really look at, first of all, what times would be appropriate, and then can we, possibly close on a Friday afternoon to realize some saving there, and then also to really find out how much would it truly cost us to open on Sundays for the appropriate amount of time that we have. And as far as Mr. Baca, he has definitely been an asset to the city, and I believe that he is very, very knowledgeable, very, very educated at what he does. I'm just really having a challenge with the fact that if we do this, he's going to be one of the highest paid directors, and I don't see how that is particularly fair to the rest of our directors who also provide great savings to the city and provide lots of cost-effective practices, and I feel that we're favoring one over the other, and I have a problem reconciling that. I don't have a problem with bringing him up to the average director's position, or salary rather. I think that's something we probably should have already done, but being that it was this department was just created last year, he started off with a starting salary. Because he is as good as he is, I don't have a problem with Mr. Baca being brought up to the average director salary. I just think that going to the extreme of a $14,000 increase, I'm willing to consider, as I mentioned, an increase to what the average director salary is. I don't think it's fair to the rest of our directors who work extremely hard, who do a great job, and who realize savings on a daily basis. I think of, the grants that the fire chief has been able to bring in, the grants that the police chief has been able to bring in, the asset forfeiture, is it 1.1 million, I believe, is what I saw, 1.1 million into the city, but yet we're not considering an increase for him. We're not going to consider an increase for any of our other directors, and again, I don't have a problem with increasing his salary to the average director's salary. I just find it hard to really put him at and above almost all the directors. And so if we could maybe consider a number within the range that is more on par with what our average directors are making, then I wouldn't have a problem with that. So that's my comments.
Anybody else? Okay, so this budget is definitely not approved the way that it's being presented. So for direction for you all, I'd like to take up the issues that were discussed and take votes on them. And then you would go back and reconcile. and produce a budget. Now, I'd like to ask the commission, I know we've spoken about, and you briefly touched on it, I specifically stated it for our employees for consideration for the increases. I'd like for us to consider a $250 one-time increase, which would total $49,750 to be given, I guess, around the same time we did last year, which was around the Christmas time, unless y'all think it's a different time to do that. But that's what I'd like to be able to propose. I think it was like 175 last year, or something
Yes,
like that.
That's correct.
And that it would be 250 take home. Is that what you estimated?
I will base it on gross.
On
So
gross.
we'll be less than that, 250. It will be probably about, just top of my head, maybe 10% of that. So just to
That would be a total of 49,750.
yes, and those will be, of course, allocated to the different funds, which is the
Certainly.
general fund and the solid waste and the utility fund, and most likely 50% will be the general fund.
That's 25,550 for the general fund, 6,875 for the solid waste, and 17,325 for the utility fund, for a total of 49,750.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, real quick, and I think that's a great idea, and I'm in favor of it, as I have been every time it's been presented. Mr. Gomez, earlier today I asked you regarding the funding that was from the liner settlement, and we had discussed in maybe less than a year ago, but some time ago, about the transferring of that into the general fund, and I spoke to you briefly on that earlier today. And now you mentioned that about 350 más o menos.
At this point, we have transferred 245,000 to the general fund, from the utility to the general fund. And the way we approached it, we did according as we have the expenses coming in. And so eventually we're gonna close the gap and, request additional amounts. But at this point, that's what's has been accrued, yes, 245.
And that was from a total of approximately 800?
Approximately, the total settlement amount is about in the range of a little bit over $500,000.
About 600?
I would say about 520 in the low.
Now, that money isn't already identified for any particular purpose, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Except for where we're gonna transfer in to cover the expenditures of the canal lowerings?
Yes, that was discussed, and we transfer as a budget item. We adjusted the budget back in April, the 8th meeting, 2014. And that was on the canal roadway improvement at the Sergeant Trevino and Eldora, and also on the Sergeant Trevino and the Sioux Road and Eldora Road.
Sioux Road, there was an increase to the budget as well, and so that had to be done in that same
Correct.
budget adjustment. So when we did that, that really wasn't coming from the general fund, it was coming from the settlement that we had, this additional revenue that had come into the city from the settlement of the sewer.
That is correct.
The water treatment plant liner.
Yes, that's where the money is sitting at this point, of course. We already have transferred 245,000. And eventually, once we accrue additional expenses, we're gonna go ahead and transfer the money forward in a budget item.
Do you expect that we're gonna be transferring the entirety of that, or will there be some left over?
There's a possibility. Most likely, it seems that there's gonna be a possibility that it'll be left over. As far as the amount, I know there's an additional expenditure coming in. We have received some bids, which is range, I'm not really sure. I would hate to mention an amount, but it's gonna be around less than 200,000 range. And so it's possibility there'll be a gap in between where it's actually sitting in the fund and where the actual expenditure is gonna be.
That's what I mean, though, is that do you expect that particular amount of money will completely be expended by the canal lowering, or will there be a balance remaining?
A balance remaining.
And the reason why I raised that issue is because potentially, if the commission is amenable, we could transfer the almost 50,000, I don't remember the number you mentioned, Mayor, 49,000?
49,750.
We could potentially identify that $49,000 that's required to do from that fund, if in fact you feel comfortable that that might be a remaining balance.
An assessment, and I think it will be, most likely there will be absorbed if we have additional expenditure of 49,000, most likely we'll be able to cover it.
So you'll be able to take it out from there and disperse it into the 3 different funds that would be necessary to cover that merit pay. And I'd like to refer to it as merit pay because it's actually the city's not actually supposed to give bonuses. It's merit pay, and so I think that if everybody's amenable to that, I mean, I think that that's something that we've identified a source where we could transfer funds to cover that that merit pay for that, and then you can make your assessment. And if you, through your assessment, don't believe that that's plausible, then we can revisit that issue.
I think one thing, and I'm glad you brought up that fund there. I know we owe the EDC about $189,000 for the street work that was done. I don't know if you have an actual number, but Mr. Garcia reminds me almost all the time. And the work's been done. And I know that if we want to continue growing some of the programs that are looking to come in, and perhaps some incentives themselves, we need to pay the EDC, and that's been pending for I think a couple of years, or maybe even 3 years. And we do owe that money. I know that in earlier conversations, maybe it was with the commission, or maybe it was at the time that those monies were coming in, one of those conversations was, when do we pay the EDC? They did us the favor of funding it so that it could get done and we could save on it, but we need to pay that back and put it where it needs to be. But I agree that money can be used, put to use, but that's where I'm suggesting. And the $49,750 can come from the attorney's fees and the lobbyists. Anything else?
I mean, if you're willing to assure us that we're not going to be sued again as often as we have, then I don't have a problem.
I don't know that I can assure you that,
Yeah, I'm sure you
but I can
can't.
tell you that we can actually renegotiate a contract with the attorney currently where it has no cap, where it has no specifics, that we can do a amount that is a state amount, an amount per month. Right now, the way that you figured out the budget, you allocated an average of $12,000 a month on attorney's fees. And if we do a set salary, I would like to revisit that. And we could actually save some money if we did a set salary, so that every time you get a letter, we're not charged so much money. Every time you have a phone call, we're not charged extra money. But renegotiate that contract, that we could maybe go down to $7,000 per attorney's fees monthly, and then whatever little bit that's left to take us to $150 becomes that extra fund, so that if other legal issues come out as it was presented, we can actually have some control under legal fees locally. We talk about the different lawsuits that come up. If you realize we are insured by TML, and TML is the one, when it reviews those lawsuits, are the one that are taking care of it if they qualify under TML. And if you look at the attorney's fees that have accumulated, they're basically attorney's fees from our local attorney, and then that other lawsuit that took place, and I think we even have Mr. Vasquez on there when he comes and helps us as well. So
It's not all of the cases, and I'm sure you can agree, not all the cases have been covered by TML.
I don't know which ones have not, sir. But
I'm
when
sure
I
you
look
do-
at the adjustments,
I'm sure you do know
when I look at
which
the
ones,
adjustments
because I'm
that are
sure you
here, sir,
looked at it.
I'm telling you, sir.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think, yeah, I think we can control legal fees. And I think that's the way that we can propose it. And that would definitely help us put some money to be able to fund this. And I would just get rid of the lobbyists. And I wanted to share with you on the lobbyists that, and I want to read that to you. I got the minutes from the last time. They were, their contract came before us when you all, the commission that was here, approved them back in March of 2013. And I got the minutes from that meeting when they were here. They came here because we requested that they be here, and I actually showed up that day. And one of the things that we left in our parting words with the lobbyists was, and this is directly from page 2 of our meeting minutes, and says, Mayor Sanchez commented that the firm will be, what will the firm be working on this year? Mr. Carr commented he would like for the city to be proactive and issue such transportation and funding from state agencies. Mayor Sanchez commented that that she in the past had asked that the firm come before the city on a more regular basis, preferably on a quarterly basis, but that has not happened and would like a commitment from the firm. Mr. Carr commented the firm would be more than happy to come down and report on a quarterly basis. It has not happened. And so when you look at the contract, and part of the contract that states is you do as reporting and following the directive of your client, which is the city, really. But part of that, on the contract, it talks about termination being either 30 days because of cause or 90 days for no cause, and giving them enough time, a notice for that. I say that because of those issues, because I've had that conversation, because I requested that publicly, and because I make a public commitment to do it and have not done it, they have breached that contract. And therefore, we can give a 30-day notice and terminate those services, and we actually free up $72,000 to give our employees the raise that they need and be able to actually have money for something other than the projects that we are wanting to bring in, and even the salary well-deserved by Mr. Baca.
Well,
So
go ahead.
No, I'm done. I just don't know if you want to do it. We're definitely not in agreement. I know that they need direction. I don't know if we go item by item. I think everything else, except for those items that are on there that we're not in agreement, I'm thinking that's the way.
Well, why don't we identify those?
Okay, and y'all can tell me if this is correct. The first one is the lobbyists. Second is the legal fees, which is the surplus legal fees. It was called legal issues. The next one is the salary for Mr. Baca, the salary increase. The other one is the one-time bonus.
I don't think that we're in, at least,
Oh, no, you're right, we're not. We can eliminate that.
one's not, I think we're on agreement in that one.
Okay. And then I have, I think, and as we look at it, the, that would be it. And of course, the additional legal fees that were attributed on the line item just for regular fees of an additional $20,000 from last year's 150 to increase to 170,000. That would, it would look at money so that we could produce a balanced budget. We would need for the increase of the 49,750, with 20,000 on legal fees, 30,000 on legal issues, 72,000 on the lobbyists, and then I don't know what the amount will be for the increase.
I think the increase is already included in the budget, is it not?
That's correct. Yes,
The increase for Mr. Baca is already in the.
that's correct. So I'd like to go ahead and take a vote on those items.
Public hearing?
No,
closed?
you're not. It has not.
It has not?
Let me go ahead and close that then. I'll close the public hearing at 7:42. And so go ahead and I'm going to go item by item. First item, is there a motion to decrease the legal fees of 170,000 on the agenda to 150? Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Is that, how many ayes? Did you vote against it? There is no action because it's not, there wasn't enough to approve or to disapprove. Okay, lobbyists, is there a motion to terminate that contract?
I don't know if that's on this item. I think what you're asking for is that it
Not
be
to
funded.
allocate money, okay. Not to allocate money for the lobbyists. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second that. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, does not pass. No vote, actually. Legal issues decreased from 30,000. Is there a motion to decrease that line item or eliminate that line item of 30,000?
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor state
Can I
aye.
just, I guess, make a comment on that. Let's say we do eliminate that. Let's say we agree to eliminate that 30,000 for legal issues, and then legal issues will undoubtedly come up. How are you going to vote against a budget amendment at that time?
If we actually get rid of the lobbyists, we'll have money.
I understand. I'm asking particularly about this on the legal 30.
I wouldn't know how to tell you that.
I guess
If
you
we-
want
if
to
we-
eliminate a fund
Well,
that we're
if we
going to
need,
need.
I stated already, we renegotiate his contract, so we're not paying $12,000-$15,000 a month, but we're actually cap it and do a set fee of 8,000, allowing that the amount of the 150 to stand, but locking them at 8,000, and then allows that cushion for those unexpected issues to be able to be funded.
But I'd like for a negotiated contract to be presented and approved before we start making a decision like that, so.
Well, that's what we would be considering. And you're asking me, how do we make up for it? That's how I.
Yeah, but we don't have a
project it.
renegotiated contract that you can say, well, we've already renegotiated. If we could do that first, then we could come back and then I would feel a little more comfortable.
I mean, we can leave that pending, and it's not gonna pass tonight anyway. Leave it pending for the next meeting and bring it.
So, but I would offer that, if we can renegotiate another contract, or fees, then I wouldn't have a problem with eliminating that in the future, but without a renegotiated contract, I think it's a little bit, difficult to agree to that.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, no action on that one. And then the salary for Mr. Baca, I move that we pay him the 60,300 and, I remember the exact number, but the amount that was on that, suggested amount of, I think it was $60,347,000. $347. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Comment, Mayor? On that, what I'd like to see.
That's already in there.
On that one, yeah, and and so we don't really have to,
Yeah, you're right.
but on that, what I would like to see, is that, I'd like to see what the average director salary is, and then I'd like confirmation that, and I don't know if this is something for you, Chief, or for Ms. Cordero as an HR issue, that we can confirm that, that he will not have any issues if we are willing to give him, the average salary, of the average, director.
So with the adjustments that have been made and the recommendations, I just need a little bit of guidance here from legal. There were a few amendments that were made internally already, and then the ones that were voted down, so they're not actually in the budget until something is agreed. How do we move to allow them to go on to the next stage?
Passed. I mean, what's actually stayed in the budget and what's been taken out, so you would pass it that way, so that way we have our first reading of our ordinance. Isn't that correct, Mr. Gomez? Because we need to have 2 readings of this ordinance.
Okay.
prior to October 1st.
Okay.
So we need to have it. And I hope I answered the question. Now I have a question. Just to be clear, you made a motion a little while ago to increase the salary, and then you made a comment, wait a minute, it's already in the agenda, or already in our budget. So there's no need for a motion. I believe you said that.
Is that correct or is that incorrect?
That I think that, just to be clear for the record, let's just withdraw the motion because it's already in our budget, right? So then a decision, I don't, if somebody else would want to come up with taking it out or eliminating or keeping.
Anybody made a motion? I think you offered it.
Yeah, I
Oh, I'm
stated
sorry.
it, I didn't make the motion, I just stated that if there's a motion for the increase,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so I stated it, so we really didn't take action on
Okay,
that.
I apologize, Mayor.
So then, could we make a motion to approve the budget as presented, pending these items? And we can state the items for the record? Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget as presented with the exception of legal issues, the increase in legal representation, and with the exception of approval for funding for lobbyists. I make that in form of a motion.
Okay. Run that last one by me. What did you do there?
I make a motion to approve the budget as presented with the exception of legal issues, the increase in legal fees, and funding for lobbyists. Wait, and I'm glad, yes, I'm glad you, and I think that we all agreed, since we all agreed we didn't discuss it, and with a $250 increase to pay for merit pay.
Actually, we just discussed that, and we said it's already in the budget.
No,
so
no,
we
that
don't-
was for Baca's salary.
Oh, for Mr. Blanca's salary. Okay, so you're stating that we'll approve it pending these issues,
These
correct?
issues, but including the $250 merit pay.
That's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
So you have your first reading of your ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I was already going home, look at that. I'm supposed to say.
Almost.
Almost. Okay, next item on the agenda, if I could find it. I got it, thank you. Hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance, C, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance for the special use permit for the sale and on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages at the Rolling Dice Sports Bar, legally described as Lot 30, Morningwood subdivision, located at 1209 East FM 495, Suite 4, as requested by Brenda Zuniga and Jorge Monsivais. Mr. Cervantes.
Commission, good evening. Ms. Brenda Zuniga and Mr. Jorge Monsivais are requesting a special use permit for the sale and on-premise consumption of alcohol and late hours permit at Rolling Dice Sports Bar, which was originally opened in May 2012. The reason why this is coming before you is that there's a change of operator, so they're having to reapply with the TABC. The proposed days and hours of operation will remain the same from Sunday through Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. and Thursday through Saturday from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. The planning department requested calls for service from the San Juan Police Department, and the records for the past year reflect alarm service calls only. A public hearing was held on this request by the Planning and Zoning Commission on August 21st, 2014, and nobody spoke in opposition during the public hearing. During their meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimously approval with a 5-0 vote.
I'd like to open this meeting at 7:51. Are there any members of the public that have a statement for or against? Anybody from the public that'd like to wish to make any statements for or against? Members of the commission?
Just a clarification. What do you mean exactly by alarm service calls only? And I don't know if maybe that's a question for you, Chief. When they requested records, it says alarms. Is that like, I'm assuming they're burglar alarm?
It goes off.
Alarms from security companies,
Okay.
that's what they were.
Wasn't sure. And are the owners present or the, okay. Do you all wish to say anything? If you could come up, please.
Come forward and please state your name. Good.
Not a mixed beverage license. It's just an
It's just beer.
beer and
It's not no mixed drinks.
Mixed.
It's a license for only beer, not liquor.
Okay.
So closing time would be 12 o'clock during the week and maybe,
hours that I had put on my notes was on the application was 5 to 2.
For every day or for certain days or
Wednesday through Saturday.
most Saturday?
On here, what we have is Sunday through Wednesday, 4 p.m. to 12 a.m., Thursday through Saturday from 4 to 2 a.m.
5 to,
Yeah, that's fine.
That's on the
5 to 2. But only
second
Sundays 'cause
page
they're
of
asking.
the, excuse me one second, on page 2 of the
Okay, I'm sorry,
staff
I'm in the
report.
very different, yeah.
So those are not the proposed hours. Right. So you're accommodating and saying 5,
exactly.
Yeah.
which I think
when
is great.
the other
I
office
think that
closed.
what we need to do as we consider it is be sure on the hours, number one, and then number two, we typically have set the hours when we do these permits, and and maybe we need to go to an ordinance that will reflect that, but typically on Sundays, remind me again, Mr. Yeah, typically on Sundays, we ask for 12 midnight closing. And so, so I guess for the record then, is it Sunday through Wednesday from 4 to midnight, or from 5? From 5?
5.
Okay. And then Saturday, Thursday through Saturday from 5 to 2.
And this is not that type of license permit that has a restriction up until midnight, is that correct? This one does not. It's not stated anywhere. Mr. Cervantes? You've seen that? You've got a copy
The
of
late
that?
hours permit.
Those are the hours that we got from the applicants, so.
Do we get a copy of that permit, Mr. Cervantes? Because I know we had that question in the last one. Did they provide you a copy of that? Okay.
you know, what I may be wrong, I don't know, but if you stay open till 2 o'clock a.m., don't you have to have a liquor license? No, you don't? Okay.
If you sell liquor, it's my understanding.
Well, I'm
and
just,
you stay till 2, if you have the liquor license
you stay open
and
till 2.
stay open till 2, then you have to have a late hours permit. But if you sell straight beer.
Hours permit.
My understanding, I'm not an expert
You
in that.
just pay additional.
Any other questions? Not, I'd like to close this public hearing at 7:55. Is there a motion for approval as presented with the amendment on the time?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good luck.
Item D, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance for a special use permit for the sale and on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages at Lisa's Sports Bar, legally described at Lot 3, McBride subdivision, located at 905 West FM 495, Suite 5, as requested by Elisa Vigil.
Yes, this is the same situation, a change of operator. Ms. Vigil is requesting a special use
Vigil.
permit for the sale and on-premise consumption of alcohol and late hours permit at the proposed Lisa Sports Pub. She's proposing to take over the business, which is currently La Cueva Sports Bar, that was originally open in May 2012. The proposed days and hours of operation are every day from noon until 2 a.m. The planning department requested calls for service from the San Juan Police Department, and the records for the past year reflect 2 calls, a loud music and a traffic stop. A traffic stop and a loud music call. A public hearing was held on this request by the Planning and Zoning Commission on August 21st, 2014. Nobody spoke in opposition during the public hearing. During their meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with a 5-0 vote, but with the condition that the bar closes at 12 midnight on Sundays.
Let me go ahead and open the public
Oh,
hearing
sorry.
at 7:57. Are there any comments from the public, for or against? Any publics from the comment? any publics from the comment. Any comments from the public for or against? Okay, from the commission?
Yes, and I guess, again, I'm not sure exactly who to direct this to, but on this loud complaint, on this loud music complaint, was it just, I mean, I guess did they correct it after it was brought to their attention? Or was it like a one-time?
We have a city ordinance for loud music, and basically when we get calls, either people complain, we go out there and we let them know that they need to lower down the music. And once they do it, first an issue, a complaint or offense, just a warning. And then repeated offenses, then we go ahead and start citing them for.
And if that becomes more common, since this is a conditional use permit, we could always bring it back and either recommend corrective action or repeal the conditional use permit. Ms. Vigila, en inglés, español, does it matter? Okay.
Ma'am, can you come to the microphone because we're recording so we can hear you?
Months, and I haven't had any problems. Mr. Gonzalez can let you know.
Great.
I'm there all the time. I don't tolerate. I've run up people, and
Great.
I'm trying my best.
No, great, and we appreciate you having your business. But just I wanted so you heard what I said. If it does become a major problem, then we could, eventually end up back here and could repeal your license or.
They told me
your
about
permit.
that one time ago, and I had my jukebox set on one. They can't put it up or down anymore. Yeah.
That was the way to go on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing at 7:59. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good luck, ma'am.
Item E, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance for a special use permit for a drive-through and for the sale of alcoholic beverages for off-premise consumption at Charlie's Drive-Through, legally described as Lot 1, Mireles subdivision located in 912 East US Business 83, as requested by Suhey Mireles.
Same situation, a change of operator. Ms. Mireles is requesting a special permit for a drive-through business and for the sale of alcoholic beverages for off-premise consumption at Charlie's Drive-Through. She's proposing to take over the business under the same name, Charlie's Drive-Through. The proposed days and hours of operation will be the same, Sunday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. The current business has been continuously operating since 2010 and has security cameras. A public hearing was held by the Planning and Zoning Commission on August 21st. Nobody spoke in opposition during the public hearing. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval unanimously with a 5-0 vote.
Any questions from the commission? If not, I'd like to go ahead and close the public hearing at 8 o'clock. Is there a motion for approval as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. F, consider an ordinance adjusting, thank you, Mr. Cervantes. Oh, you're up next, anyway. Consider an ordinance adjusting the corporate boundary of the city of San Juan, Texas, providing for voluntary annexation of the Medina Estates subdivision as recorded in document number 2513423 of the map, records of Hidalgo County, Texas, including the Eldora right-of-way between Retama Street and the eastern boundary of Medina Estates subdivision located along the south side of Eldora Road, approximately 1,400 feet east of Retama Street. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, it is the city's policy to annex subdivisions processed and approved within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The Medina State subdivision was approved by the City Commission on February 12, 2013, and recorded on May 15, 2014. One of the subdivision requirements is that the developer request in writing annexation to the city. The subdivision developer submitted a letter to that effect, and staff has it on file. By annexing the subdivision, the city's tax base will automatically increase by $192,000. And because of future construction that is proposed within the subdivision, the city's tax base will increase even more in the future as a result of the annexation. As mandated by state law, a public hearing was held on August 13, 2014. Nobody showed up in opposition to the annexation during the public hearing. Staff recommends adoption of the ordinance in first reading.
an ordinance.
Just a quick question. Mr. Cervantes, this is just a 4-lot subdivision. Is access all gonna be off of Eldora?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so it's just basically 4 lots that
4
they-
lots with frontage on Eldora.
And what about sewer?
The sewer is a North Alamos service area for sewer.
Okay, and so they do have sewer, they will
They're
have sewer
gonna be on
connection?
septic, they're gonna be on septic tank. They're already in septic tank.
So there's already
But
homes
this is in North Alamos service area for sewer, so
It's their sewer CCNs.
it's their sewer CCN.
So how does that work when once we get annexed and we require?
It remains in North Alamos service area for,
So if they
for-
don't, if North Alamo doesn't provide them sewer, then we can't compel them to connect?
unless we have an agreement with North Alamo to take over that area for sewer, it remains in North Alamos area for sewer. But I do believe that North Alamo plans to run sewer lines in the area. So in the future,
Might have collected a fee for it.
in the
See,
future,
we don't get a lot of those information, but they might have collected some kind of fee when they went to get the water from North Alamo, reimbursements for sewer, and I'm almost positive they did, because that's the way they work.
This has to go through 2 readings. Is there, can we,
We can find out.
If it gets
Right now,
approved-
they are in half acres it is.
okay,
They meet the state law.
right, but our city
They, it would be a
ordinance require
variance.
them to be connected to sewer, correct? I guess what I'm saying is that we're working so hard to make sure that all of our citizens are connected. I'd hate to annex a piece of property that has no intention of being connected to sewer. And so I guess if we could, by the second reading, Mr. Cervantes or Ronnie or both of you, if you could just kind of confirm what the plan on that is.
we'll visit with North Alamo and see if they have plans to extend sewer lines.
Cervantes, the property between the school and the Medina Estates,
Mm-hmm.
there's some development. Did we do some planning approvals not too long ago?
Yes, and in Alvarez subdivision?
And they have been incorporated?
Yes, that's
Okay.
already inside the city. It's a subdivision that stretches the length of the school. It's a long, narrow subdivision. It's just east of the school.
Ending our,
Yes.
okay. Is there any other comments? If not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F, consider an ordinance adjusting the corporate boundary of the city of San Juan, Texas, providing for voluntary annexation. I just did that, right? There you go. Item 7 on contractuals. Consider the possible action to terminate the contract for professional services with Focus Advocacy for LLC of Austin, Texas. I think I've discussed this last time, and we've discussed it again at the portion of the budget. I know that Commissioner Ramirez had requested information. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that. Did you get the information you needed?
I did speak to them, but I wasn't aware of what you read earlier today, so I could have questioned them about it. So if you don't mind, I would like a copy of that. And I know we're still pending the approval of the budget, so.
First of all, I need to take it off the table because it has been tabled for discussion. Is there a motion to remove from table? I'll second that. All in favor state aye. So if, either way, we're not gonna get enough of a vote to open it up.
So why don't we leave it tabled and let him get some more information?
You still need more information?
Yes, please, I would.
I'd like to be able to resolve it one, please ask the questions. You're welcome to, I'm gonna give you all my emails. Show you the, well, can't discuss it, but they're for your review as well. So then the item will remain tabled. I'd like it on the next agenda to be able to consider, and I'd like to put it at the top of the agenda for consideration before we go into the budget itself. Item B, I asked for a motion and we seconded. So I'll take the vote and then we leave it tabled. I'm not sure how to get out of this one. No, we didn't vote. I just got a first and second, but then I asked you a question. If I don't get it to be moved from table, it just remains tabled. So let me finish with the motion itself. I moved, and there was a first and second. All in favor state aye. Any opposed? All right, then the item will remain tabled and brought into the next agenda. Item B, consider the possible action to authorize and amend the city's agreement with Cruz Hogan Consultants, Inc. as it relates to the City of San Juan, Texas, U.S. Environment Express 83 project to include the San Juan EDC sanitary sewer infrastructure project. Mr. Villarreal or Mr. Cruz as well?
Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
This was a project that we already had public hearings for and was passed, and we are basically just asking the City Commission if we are able to basically piggyback on the agreement that they have with the Cruz Hogan, and so we could be included in that. We think it's a cost-saving way to save taxpayer money, and we're just asking for approval to be included in that agreement that the city has with the Cruz Hogan for the the Expressway 83 project. The project that we would like to do is the North Minnesota project, which would be providing infrastructure for the north part of town.
And that's from Minnesota down, it doesn't start at Minnesota, does it?
If I may, Mayor, this project is that next to it there's a tire shop, and then on the other side there's that plaza.
Right.
For some reason the sewer line ended there when it was done, whatever. So what we're trying to do, this is part of the EDAP, by the way. We're gonna go around and get the homes up to the ditch. Now, when the EDAP is done, it's the only people that qualify are residential. So the commercial wouldn't qualify for connection. So we're saying, well, we'll come and do this is the project that we're doing north of the Expressway, water and sewer, which is basically a lot of the same sewer items on this item that we're going to have going out for bids for the other project. So I said, what we'll do, we'll put this in there. We will make it an alternate added, so you'll know exactly what this costs when we get the final quantities. And then at that point, the city can either award the bid subject to either yes with the alternate, no with the alternate, but you'll know that number. And I think we're going to get a lot competitive prices because it's a larger project, and that's where this project came.
When you say that the city approves, the city's not funding that.
No, but we'll no. The EDC is going to fund it, but we'll know exactly the number by putting the alternate.
So
exactly
then,
right.
so then, if we're the ones actually sitting to approve, because we put the two bids out, is it considered something something we put in our books? Because the city's going to be approving, or is that something that says, hey, EDC is going to approve this part and we're going to approve this part?
Well, no.
When the contract goes out to accept, how is it going to read?
It's going to we're going to have a base bid, which is the items that are right now north of the Expressway, with an alternate additive, where it'll be these items. You award the base bid and alternate number one, or just base bid and no alternate, and then the contract goes. Now, when they do that, you'll know exactly what this item costs because we'll split it up, and the funds will just be whatever. But
whatever.
I'm talking about they'll be transferred from EDC to the city or whatever. But you all are using the city funds for this.
What we'll do is what I was telling Mr.
Outside the engineering scope. Sorry, Ronnie.
Whatever scares me, Ronnie, when you say it like that.
What I discussed with Mr. Uriel, and I apologize for not having a lot of time to brush up with him on what this was all about. This was between myself and Mr. Cruz and Mr. Tapia and Mr. Rodriguez the last couple of weeks. We're trying to get the most competitive bid for that north infrastructure out on Raul Longoria, Minnesota. North Minnesota is coming south on Raul Longoria. And we came up with this with this alternative, that we can get the best deal if we do this. Now, the contract would be between the contractors and the EDC. If there is a really good bid, Mr. Cruz has assured me that he's going to get us the best bid, and that way the EDC can enter into contracts with each different contractor to get the best deal, or to actually know who's going to be responsible for the payment of it.
So the contract will be directly with them, we won't have to pay anything?
No, we are looking to enter into contracts with the vendors, and then we will pay the vendors, because we need to do that for our performance agreements. We're not going to do that?
No, not two contracts. It would be one contract with a contractor.
With a contract through the city?
It's the same. You would just, the funds could be, not whatever, but moved over to pay for that item, but the contract with a contract would be one contract.
Okay. The only thing.
How do we sign that contract?
Yeah.
The only thing, our requirement is that we have certain requirements to meet with our performance agreement. So we need to make sure that we have something in writing saying that he's going to hire so many jobs and it's going to cost us this much. If there's a default, we can go back and seek our money back. So that's why I was saying we need to have our performance agreement in place with a contractor.
With a construction contractor?
Yes.
Let me ask you, do you think it'll be $189,000 for theirs? 57?
Or less. I think it's going to be a lot less.
Could be reduced from the amount that we owe.
That was also thrown around with Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Tapia earlier today and at our previous meetings, but however we can.
For consideration to say that we have funds for that readily available at the time that the bid goes out to be able to enter into a contract. Maybe that's something that needs to come back for consideration in that way. Because then in that point we'd be able to say there is funds available, we can enter into a contract, and then an understanding that that amount is to be credited against anything that is totaled against owed to the EDC.
That, Ronnie, would that be able, I didn't know that it'd be a problem for us to have a separate contract with the contractors.
Well, because that would require bonds and all kinds of stuff. No, I think one contract is with a contractor is good, but you know, then the paying off would be the contractor knows there's, you know, here how the city does it with EDCs within, you know, your.
It's an agreement for us to make.
With EDC.
Would we be able to have some sort of side agreement where he would assure us that he would hire so many jobs, you know, whether it's 2 or 3, and if there's a default, I mean, well, I'm sure the city would take care of that as well. If there's a default, how the city can get its money back or not have to pay for it. But we need to have something in writing that would satisfy
We can put it in the bid.
requirements.
We can put it in the bid
Okay.
package before it goes out for bids.
Okay, that's all we would need. And
Because
then-
I'm sure the city part would be great also, that we put that language.
Okay. How would we figure out if we can do it this way? Because I know that this was thrown around before, but we wanted to talk to the chief after this meeting, since you had your budget hearing. And I know the chief has also spoken to me earlier, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about this issue on the money that is owed to the EDC. But I think the EDC would be happy with that to get that credit. So how would we work that out, chief?
Maybe if we put it, I don't know, does this need to be approved today?
For the other part of the I'm ready to go out for bids. I'm delaying it. I've held on to it for this issue, if we're going to include it. You know, we can include it and see what happens, because we're going to use it as an alternate.
Let me ask you this, if we go out for bids and put them both, we're not committed to accept them? And so by the time that the bid goes out with both of them, the only thing is for public purposes of information, we would have to let the public know that, you know what, the city of San Juan's gonna undertake them both, rather than the EDC this way, for disclosure. Because here it's listed as we're gonna let the EDC go ahead and piggyback, but when we're hearing is you can't have 2 contracts. So one has to take the lead. If the city of San Juan takes the lead, then for purposes of notices to the public, what we're doing, we would need to either approve it tonight as all for the city, rather than this item that's here.
Mayor, if I may. Just because I've been working on this for the last 6 weeks, not this particular project, but on something very similar, could this not be resolved with an MOU that clearly delineates the the city will be the fiscal agent, and it commits X amount to the city's project, and the EDC commits to X amount, which is whatever you all have budgeted for this. If we get that MOU, then in that MOU, you can also state, you know, with the
Our
caveat that
requirements.
you need to require, or this needs to be a part of the one contract that's going to be with the contractor. And I know it can be done because I've seen up to 4 entities combining to do 2 projects. And as long as each entity, you know, there's one lead agency because there's going to be one contract. But, you know, and one that I just finished it was the City of McAllen, the City of Mission, Precinct 3, and Precinct 4, all 4 entities to do one project on one
Fiscal
side
agent.
and one project on the other side. So these weren't even, it wasn't even the same project, it was 2 separate projects. It was one fiscal agent, and then in that MOU, it stated, you know, this city will provide this much, this city will provide this much, this precinct will provide this much, this precinct will provide this much, and then on one of them, they were using EDC funds, and they needed to have a performance agreement. It says, and for this funding, we need to have a performance agreement.
That makes sense. We could do that.
So what would come first? We would have to consider the MOU, and we have to consider the bidding. How does that work? What comes first?
Well, I mean, I think that we can work with what we have right here, Mr. Cruz. We can do this, and then we can bring back our MOU between the city and the EDC after this. That way he can proceed working with the numbers and start getting the process together and the
So we don't delay the bid process.
yes.
At the end of the day, if we can't come to an agreement on MOU, then
Matter,
we just agreed to do the one part.
the base bid.
Okay, so we approve it this way without the city actually having any kind of, or can we
Approve it
amend?
approve it pending
Pending.
an MOU?
Pending the MOU, we could do that.
And then we put the MOU in the next agenda item?
Yes.
Definitely before we see the bid. Or
Oh,
before-
no, it's gonna take 30
That's gonna
days.
take
Yeah.
some time, but let's
Two-
get
2
it
weeks to
done
get
as
it
soon as
done.
possible.
Yeah.
So then for the next agenda, we can bring back an MOU between the EDC and the city. So
And they would end up paying it directly,
unless we figure out.
that we can pay it from
Pay
ours.
it from ours.
All right. Is there a motion as stated with the,
Make a motion to approve pending a memorandum of understanding between the city of San Juan and the San Juan EDC.
is there a second? Second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item C, consider ratifying the San Juan Economic Development Corporation's annual budget for fiscal year 2014-2015. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, we are presenting our budget for the year 2014-2015, and this budget has already gone through the process of public hearing and has been approved by the board. The budget is structured on a projected 5% tax revenue increase. Basically, everything from last year is the same as this year. If not, most of them have gone down. A couple of them have gone up slightly. And we're just basically asking for the approval of the budget. So if there's any questions.
But is this a balanced budget?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you a few questions. On item contractual proof and technical services, you had the accounting and audit services coming from the city. You've reduced it by 17,000. Does that mean, what does that mean?
That has to do with I believe it has to do with our finance and contract specialist has taken over some of those duties.
So you're going to, do you hire your own auditor? You don't have an auditor?
City, what they did was they gave myself, the finance and contract specialist, they added those duties to my job description.
Provide any services to you
Yes,
all?
ma'am. We're paying $1,000 to the city because they are doing our payroll.
Okay.
And the other thing that they do is the hiring process for us.
Mayor. They
HR.
provide HR assistance.
That's included in this?
Yes, we have a contract that was brought to the city commission, I believe it was last year. It was reduced from 2,500 to 1,000, I believe.
That was when Mr. Rodriguez was still here.
But that contract should be coming back up to the city commission for ratification or approval, actually.
Have under other professionals and paraprofessionals, you had a balance of 8,000, now it's gone up to 42,000.
Yes, ma'am. In that one, we went ahead and in case that the board does decide to do a master plan overlay for our business area, we went ahead and included the $30,000 in there.
Participating in that?
Ma'am, we're still looking into that. I know that is something
Okay,
that
I don't even know if
Mr.
that was in our
Villarreal
budget or not, but
is looking into.
no, might be on your own. Let me go on to under economic development sales tax. I don't know if that's, it says rental is doubled.
Yes. The reason that it has doubled is we did move. This was prior to when our director was still with us. We did move to the north side for the reason being that we really have not been able to find anything here closer to downtown. We are still looking into that, but we had to sign a year lease and the rent did go up. Plus, before our director left, he went ahead and asked if we could have a second piece, which was 750 square feet extra. It does have more space because since we did have another employee after we had the shooters conference, active shooter, our events and training specialist was actually sitting right in the front where you open the door and she's the first person that you see. There was no protection for her or anything. So our director did, advocate for him to get the second part to have extra office space for her. So now we actually have a lobby that you can come in. Everybody is, there's a door that we close. Everything is protected.
Advertising, did you have that under promotions? You have now a new line item or? Okay. You didn't have anything allotted the years before? You just created it? You just created it?
Created.
You
But
what?
before I came along, they were using promotional funds for that. So when I spoke to Mr. Vasquez, we went ahead and brought it back where we need
Promotion will be for what then?
Promotional items is used for our Noche de Paz events, any type of sponsorships, anything that is a promotional item, including our mini grants. That's where we get our funds
The
from.
advertising will be what?
It's going to be any type of advertisement that we may do in magazines, Valley Business Report, any type of advertisement that we do for EDC.
For the EDC,
Yes,
not an
ma'am.
event in particular?
No, ma'am, it will be for EDC.
All right. And on the computer scanner, you've been carrying it for 10,000 on the 12 to 13, 13 to 14, 4,000, and then you're up to 12,000. Will you not be able to get those, or you're continuously increasing, or what's happening there?
The board has considered to go ahead and start upgrading our computers. Nothing has been upgraded in a very long time. So we went ahead and put some money aside so that they can go ahead and look into that.
So the previous 10 and 4 have not been used? You've just been carrying them?
Yes, they've been there.
They have been used? No.
It's still there.
How long has it been?
This is gonna be my second year and we still haven't. That was done before I came along and we still haven't been able to get anything.
There was also a suggestion by IT that we upgrade our server. And so we're putting money aside for that.
Under promotional expenses, what I'd like to ask is, do you have numbers to be able to show the effectiveness of your promotion? And if you don't, what are you are doing to establish that? In other words, if you're investing, you have 109,000 just for promotional. How do you measure the effectiveness of your promotions for the events that you're doing to show how, how many folks are being reached? How has it increased from year to year? And how effective is it? How do you put a gauge that 109 is a good investment and you get a return for that investment?
Count as far as our events are going to be concerned, and so that's going to help right there. We're also getting, information, when someone does make a call, for instance, if they see one of our promotions, our staff is taking note, yes, this came, how did you hear about us, kind of thing. And so we're documenting that. We're starting to document that and those sorts of things.
Just you have a survey during some of these. We had it during our bicycle events, asking people what did they like about it. Maybe you can get a copy of that survey from the Parks and Recreation, what they liked about it, how did they hear about it, what would they like to see included, where they're from, and that might be able to start putting a little bit of concrete as to how we're reaching through those dollars, if it's effective or not. And then one final one, when we have unspecified project funds, that's just in reserve when something comes out during the year, is that correct? And then I'd like for you to consider the presentation that was done tonight regarding the, it's going to be on your agenda tomorrow. It's another issue, although it was discussed here, the Dia de los Muertos. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any questions?
Just on the debt service, since that bond issuance was back in '07, just a recommendation, and Mr. Rodriguez, you could take back to your board, that you should potentially consider revisiting that with Mr. Chris Vela, because I can assure you that the interest rate from '07 to today has gone down, and there might be some cost savings there by refinancing that. And the reason why I say right now is because the Fed just announced today that by next quarter, which in the next 3 months, they are going to start to go back up. So they're at their lowest right now, and then within the next quarter, they're going to be going up. So there could be a potential to refinance that '07 bond and realize a cost savings, to your yearly budget by doing that. So it's just something for your consideration. And I'm assuming Mr. Vela is the financial advisor for the EDC as well. So you might want to reach out to him on that.
Any other questions? Not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. Consent agenda, approval of minutes, August 26, 2014. B, consider second and final reading of an ordinance for the rezoning request for single-family residential district to neighborhood commercial district for the property legally described as Lot 10 Layman subdivision located at 706 Alameda Street as requested by Veronica Gutierrez. And C, consider second and final reading of an ordinance for a conditional use permit for a home occupation, seamstress, and boutique in a single-family residential district legally described as lots 14 through 16, Block 51, San Juan Original Townsite Subdivision, located at 921 South Nebraska Avenue, as requested by Lorena Ramos. Is there a motion for approval as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 8:31.